What we want in a courtroom is to have the truth come out. And so we want, in particular, the vulnerable who have been preyed upon, not to be stifled or frightened to the point where they cannot tell their story. What we want to do is have them get through what is probably one of the most difficult times that they are exposed to. And they do that with the assistance of this dog. Animals, can bring out, can calm you, and that's really what it is. And Odie is just great. She'll sit here, yawn for 3-4 hours and won't move. And it just becomes very reassuring.
Mr. Flippo returned from the California District Attorneys Association conference. And when he returned, he said he had watched a presentation on courthouse dogs. He came back and he said he was interested in the idea, and I don't know if it was more than a day that I had the entire application packet for Canine Companions for Independence, a nonprofit organization.
I don't think the public, general public realizes what the victims are subjected to. And it's one thing if you're an adult and the crime is an embezzlement, you still have to sit across, face the accused. But when you get these very personal types of crimes, assaultive types of crimes, where you have child sexual assault victims, horrific crimes, abused children, rape victims, domestic violence victims. It's no small secret in the criminal justice process that in the past, many of those people could not even make it through the court proceedings. They could not really observe and look at the defendant. So the comfort dog, and Odie, she's wonderful. She calms those types of victims.
So I met Odie when I had to testify in the case against my husband, and they brought Odie in because I was alone. I didn't have any family or friends with me because of the nature of the trial. As I was reading the transcripts between the conversation that I had with my husband, there were some parts in there where I could feel the emotion starting to happen, and just as that moment was happening, Odie sat up and looked over at me and came over and adjusted herself closer to me. And as I'm reading in more detail about how my husband was strangling me, Odie sat up and put her head on my shoulder, and as in my mind, I'm reliving how my husband was strangling me. Odie was closer to my neck area and just gently rubbing her head against my neck, which to this day I still have issues with touch around my neck. And so it was interesting how I'm reliving it in my mind, and somehow Odie sat up and brought her sweet little face next to my shoulder and just gently was touching my neck. So I definitely felt like she understood, and that she had a key sense. She keyed in on that.
Year and a half after having waited on the wait list and having my application accepted by Canine Companions for Independence, my ticket was called and I went up for training. I was lucky enough to be paired with Odie, and it's been 6 wonderful months. So she came trained. The 2 weeks was absolutely spent having me understand how to work with the dog, how to build upon the dog's already the repertoire of commands that she knows, and just know how to work with the dog, know what the dog responds to, what the dog doesn't respond to, and how to direct living with the dog, the care, the needs, exercise, the psychology behind the training that she's already been through. There was a group of approximately 20 people receiving dogs. We were the only prosecutor's office. A majority of the individuals up there had some sort of a disability, or there's skilled companion dogs that are also dogs that are handled by the parents of children that have special needs, and they're used for physical therapy and countless other reasons to support the children. So being an able-bodied individual, knowing that she was going to be coming to a facility, I don't know if they had one dog over another chosen to pair. I was lucky enough to work with her on the first day. I worked with all 20 dogs at some point in the first 2 or 3 days, but finally matched with Odie and took the remainder of the week and a half of the total 2 weeks was spent with Odie. An attorney in the office that thought Odie was a silly idea, that thought having a dog in our office was a silly idea, that just dogs don't belong in law offices and prosecutors' offices. And this particular attorney was one of the first that had a victim in here. It was a sexual assault victim, and he was with one of our investigators who was interviewing the victim. And Odie was here, and Odie was leaning on the victim's knee, almost identical to how she is with me. And she provided strength to the victim, who, when it came to talking about the horrible parts about how they were victimized, the victim would start to cry, fall apart, and look down and pet Odie and regain some composure and strength and a break and a calm, and went through in detail. And when they started to get emotional again, they looked down at Odie, put their hand on Odie's head, and again regained composure, broke away from the horror of the incident that they endured, and was able to provide in great detail, which unfortunately we need to prosecute a case to get all the evidence and all the facts we can to work through it. And it was just a testament that this prosecutor came up to me shortly after and just commended the concept, the idea, and how it actually worked, and how Odie did make a difference.
I've heard of therapy dogs. Not sure that I totally understood their purpose. Not that I didn't buy into it, but just not familiar with them personally. And so Odie came in, and she was exactly what she did exactly what she's supposed to do. I believe that she was just there to just bring comfort, to have something soft and furry to touch and ease that stress. She would reach for me before I would reach for her. I really believe that Odie's presence there really had an impact on how I was able to get through those moments. There were lots of moments where I was asked to reread certain transcripts, and then reliving a lot of those moments that weren't in the transcripts. So it definitely helped when Odie was there, because I could reach over and touch her, and she never moved away from me. She never never not wanted to be touched. She allowed me to touch her, and she would also touch back.
I think it's been remarkable, and it's been a real service and comfort for victims who didn't ask to be victimized, but they were the ones who were tortured, they were the ones who were raped, abused, and Odie has been a godsend for them. It just really, I think, really enhances our ability to have the criminal justice system less threatening to a very vulnerable victim who, again, has been treated so badly, and some of the injuries are horrific. And so Odie's worth their weight in gold.